Know what would make that better? Cup of White Cane coffee.
Wow, that really is great coffee.
White Cane coffee, because every cup makes a difference.
It's not just about music lessons. It's about hard work, perseverance, dedication, self-expression, making memories. Let's make memories together.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the cafe as White Cane Coffee presents Coffee and a Conversation. Brian Hagberg with you on your daily local. Got myself a fresh cup of Dragon's Roast that I picked up right here in the cafe. Stop on in and get yourself a fresh cup. Get it one of these special laser engraved tumblers. Get it filled with your purchase. When you bring it back, get 50% off your refill as part of the White Cane Coffee Mug Club. While you're here, you can pick up maybe a cinnamon roll or Long Johns now available. They're fantastic. Had one the other day. Stop in around lunchtime. Soup and sandwiches also available at the White Cane Coffee Cafe. If you can't make it down to the cafe, well, that's not a problem. White Cane's also available on DoorDash. Just place your order, have your favorites delivered right to your door, maybe by this person right here. And you can also order your favorite roasted brew at home online at whitecanecoffee.com. This is Coffee and a Conversation. Our special guest this week, Miss Stacy Gross. Perhaps your DoorDasher if you place one of those orders. And but we are so excited to announce that many of you know Stacy from Smoke, The Disappearance of Damien Sharp, that podcast. She's also going to be now writing for us and covering local Warren County government and things happening throughout the county. It's part of a general editorial directional change here at your daily local. We think you're going to be really happy with it. But Stacy, welcome. It's second appearance on Coffee.
I know.
A repeat offender, I guess now. But you know, a little less than a year ago, we were talking, you just wrapped season 2 of Smoke. And I know that's been widely popular here, especially within the region. And I know people are still reaching out and asking questions, still listening to the podcast. That was a very interesting investigation to be a part of. There was a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of moving parts going on with that. What do you think some of the biggest takeaways you got from investigating that story will help in this transition now as being a government reporter?
Yeah, I learned more about investigation on that show than I did in the 3 years that I worked, on a regular as a staff writer for the Times Observer and then at the Oil City Derrick, several newspapers. It's just a different style of reporting. It's a different style of storytelling, and it really kind of requires curiosity and a little bit of OCD. So I can't let things go until I'm satisfied with an answer. And so I learned kind of how to be persistent and get answers that I'm looking for more easily and more consistently.
Well, and I think, I mean, obviously we worked closely together for 2 seasons on that.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of discussions, and I think what you said there about you're not satisfied until you get an answer, and that's really one of the main reasons why, and this has been in the works for a year and a half at least. We're trying to find a way to get you on board and get some hard news reporting, some investigative reporting, primarily because of that statement right there. We don't want to be satisfied until we get answers to the questions that you have.
Right.
And I think bringing you on board, obviously I'll still be doing some stuff. Andy will still be working with us closely, of course, but that I think it's just a new dynamic. Mm-hmm. And again, like you said, with the investigative part of the podcast really now lends itself to, okay, now we can dig in, and you've got a lot of those contacts and everything too.
My phone is full.
Yes. And really kind of dig in and get to the heart of what's happening locally with our governments, with our people, with the way money's being spent, all those kind of things. And not to say that we haven't been doing that, but, as we were talking just before we went on air, we have a lot of news gathering experience, but when you're starting a new beat, it can really take 2 or 3 years to get yourself immersed to the point to where you can, fully understand how meetings work, who the players are, why things are done certain ways, and how they're being done. I actually had a conversation with school district superintendent Amy Stewart a while back, and really said the same thing. She's, people will come to, one meeting a year maybe and think they kind of know everything about everything. And it's like, if you haven't been a regular attendee, you've missed a lot of, why the decisions leading up to whatever topic it is,
Right.
got
The
you fired up
storyline
enough.
of an
Yes.
issue. If we're conducting business and say we're going to open up a contract to someone that we've had before, how did the work go the last time? Those types of questions, following the storyline of a particular agenda item throughout past, present, and then, asking questions that extrapolate to the future also is something. There's not a budget for that in most traditional newspapers for someone who's going to be investigative and a little bit tenacious and come up with those feature length pieces that really break things down.
And that's, and again, and like you said, there's just not time is right. It is a very valuable commodity that's limited.
Yeah.
And, when it's just two people and, for 3.5 years, we've been, doing what we do with news and, also running a sister site dedicated to, high school and small college sports. And time really becomes a factor there, because there's, outside of that 8-week period from mid-June to mid-August, there's stuff going on all the time.
Right.
And
just going to the meetings as an editorial writer, as a news writer, as opposed to a sports writer, just going to the meetings isn't enough. It's almost like being a salesman. You need to be stopping in and checking in on things and talking to people, even when there's no story to be had.
Right.
So it just requires a lot of time and attention that doesn't produce anything, but
but it gives you an understanding of, you have conversations with people, and then when they bring something up at a meeting, as a reporter, you have enough background as to why they're maybe bringing that up or what led to them, broaching that topic or whatever, that allows you to maybe put it into context in the story for the readers to convey that information. And like you said, when you've got limited time, some of those things are harder to come by. But again, I think it's all part of a learning experience too, right? You've got to learn who people are and establish relationships with them. And then when you're covering local governments, sometimes those people change, right? I mean, we just saw there's almost a brand new school board now, just in the last couple of months, and so the dynamic of all of those things change, right? I mean, even to the point of when we first started, we were mid-COVID, and so all the meetings were done remotely. Well, by the time we got to the end of 2021, I could remote into a school board meeting, and even if I couldn't see, by the sound of somebody's voice, I knew who it was, right? To do that now, it might be like, listen, wait, is that this person? Is this person? You're right. And so those things change, but I think the work that you've done with Smoke, with some of the other things, and obviously you've written columns for us in the past too. So it's not like this is a whole new whole new ballgame. But I think the work that you did, particularly with Smoke, and me being able to be on the periphery of that, I think that demonstrates why we wanted to make this happen, find a way to make this happen, because just the dogged determination to, I'm going to get an answer to this one way or another, whether anybody likes it or not.
And that's the other thing. Learning how to ask questions, whether anybody likes it or not, learning how to press issues when people don't particularly want them pressed. Those are all things that you can't learn just going and covering just the basic content, the agenda items of the meeting and a bulleted list. Those are important stories, but also important is to break out the information about, past, present, and future of an issue on an agenda. And the other thing too is that reporters are representatives of the public. We're there for you to try and get the answers that you're looking for. So it helps to know what questions people have, but it's also nice to come at it from an educational perspective. So this is what this issue is, and this is in other governments how it works. So.
Well, yeah, and that's obviously we encourage everybody to attend whenever they can, because that's the best way to get the information and to not run into these situations where we see it all the time. There suddenly becomes a hot button issue, of whatever, and that's when people start attending. And it's again, if you haven't been there to see decision A, and you're only showing up when they're on decision Q,
you have no context.
You don't have context for why that's been there, but and obviously not everybody can get to everybody.
But accountability is so much easier to build with a strong reporter who's, I am so sorry, that's my phone. Let me silence this immediately. Sorry about that.
Hey, life happens, right? See?
Yeah, right. Life be life.
It could have been a hot tip, right?
It could have been, man. It was just somebody from Erie, so I don't think it was super important.
Not to say that Erie's not important.
Erie's not important, but I'm saying it's not to do with local news.
Right,
So I'm gonna let it sit. I think accountability is so much easier to build with local governments when you have a strong reporter who's there to ask questions for the public, but also it can't just be that one person. We love to see people. I love to see people from the public attending meetings consistently, because that helps to build accountability too for our local government officials.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing it right now, with our neighbors down in Forest County. They created an EMS authority because there's an EMS problem. And Forest County being the way it is, there's a lot of part-time, people who own camps, right? And so they're not there all the time. They're obviously not residents, so they don't vote. But for a long time, you could basically be an absentee owner and not really have to pay a lot of attention to what was going on. And now they suddenly get this, bill for the EMS authority, and people are losing their minds. And it's like, okay, you're coming here. They've been having meetings about this, and we've reported on it for almost a year.
Right.
And it's like
there's a buildup to this.
There is a buildup. Yeah. This wasn't just like all of a sudden, they formed this EMS authority yesterday and sent out a bill, right? Like there was a process that went through this, and and again, it's, if you're not here, if you just kind of, I'm tossing this aside, or I'm not, not looking for, well, what decisions are they making and who's talking about what, this is what ends up happening, right? You've got a large number of people who are, upset with the decision and how it was done, and, myriad of other different things. But so now they're all trying to be involved, and it's like, you're so far behind in the process.
You weren't present for the Q&As and for the town hall meetings and for all the places where they sought public advice, so.
And so again, we encourage people to attend whenever possible. Especially your local municipalities, especially the commissioners. Everybody, I think, gets kind of hung up on what's happening in Washington or what's happening in Harrisburg. And the reality is that most of the decisions being made that affect your day-to-day life are being made right here.
Yep.
Again, whether it's at the courthouse with the commissioners, your local municipality, what have you, the school board, of course. Those are the places where we need to, as a community, focus our attention, because they're the ones making the decisions that impact most of our day to day.
Right. Absolutely. And just issues like, going to a municipality meeting and hearing about the saga of a road that needs fixed. It might sound boring to begin with, but I mean, if you're a resident of that municipality, and also just following the storyline of even simple business actions that are taken during meetings, following those storylines through so that there's a record, a longitudinal record of how we got from point A to point Z is important. And I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think a perfect example, right, we had last year, with the big decision about what to do with schools and et cetera. And, I saw some people were posting in February or March, oh, look, they snuck this in, that one of their goals was to, have this discussion.
Right.
it wasn't snuck in.
It
It was on the August agenda,
Right.
put out publicly for anybody to see,
Mhm.
right? But it's like, but you weren't paying attention to it then because they weren't actively discussing it.
Right.
And and again, those are the kind of things that regular attendance helps alleviate.
Mhm.
That having reporters who are actually entrenched and wanting to get to through just the surface
Right.
of
Getting to the guts
what's
of
going on,
stuff,
and it can help. When you can't attend,
Mhm.
you can turn to us to get the information that you need to be informed about whatever decision is going on.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Speaking of things going on, that flu's been going around, and it's wreaking havoc with my voice. But
Tenacious.
yes,
Tenacious little virus this year.
But again, and that's why we wanted to get you on.
Life.
We were hoping to do this probably about 6 months ago, but life. But now it's kind of appropriate. It's the start of a new year,
Yeah.
basically. We can really get things entrenched, and I know I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of things you're going to be able to dig up,
Yeah.
especially after seeing the way you went to work on Smoke.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm really looking forward to it. When I was at the Times Observer, I was more of a feature person, more of a soft news person, but working on Smoke really kind of gave me insight into how hard news should be reported and where traditional news outlets are falling behind and where we can kind of gain that ground back. I'm excited to use the way of interacting with people that I learned through Smoke in a more traditional writing situation. Hopefully it'll help.
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Coffee and a Conversation right after this.
The only thing worse than being stuck at home is being stuck at home without coffee. We can't let that happen. Browse our selection and order online. From sweet to tangy, hot or iced, we have something for you. White King Coffee, because every cup makes a difference. Cheers.
And welcome back as White King Coffee presents Coffee and a Conversation. Our special guest this week, Stacy Gross, going to be our new news reporter. New news. Oh,
News.
God. Oh, sorry. I think that's trademark. Sorry. New Heights guys. My bad. I
Wasted.
yeah, but again, a lot of people are going to know you from Smoke. Fantastic podcast. Still getting questions. How often now are you still having people reach out?
It's so random and it jumps off at random times. So
Yeah.
it'll be nothing for months. And then one week, just a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 messages out of nowhere, which was not a lot 2 years ago or a year and a
Right.
half ago. It was almost every day
Mhm.
when the production was running. But now, I mean, to get 5 and 6 in a day from
Yeah.
different people, I know that it's kind of interesting to go then and look at the statistics for listenership and downloads
Mhm.
and things for the podcast, and I'll notice a bump. And I still haven't figured out quite what motivates that, except it just gets shared in the right way.
Right.
And
Yeah. If we could figure out the algorithms and why things were done the way they were,
I can rule the world.
yes.
I had someone from Denmark just write to me the other day, well, a couple weeks ago, I
Yeah.
guess. And it's so fun to hear where all is being listened to
Mhm.
and what motivates people to listen to that and to share it. And they're sharing it with other true crime reporters that they know or other true crime content creators. What prompts them to get engaged is Damien himself. He's such a compelling person
Yeah.
still to people who don't even know him. So that's nice to know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's, I mean, from what I see, it seems like there's always somebody saying, "Oh, well, have you shared it with this show or this podcast or whoever?" And
Mhm.
but like you said, it's so random
Yeah, it is.
when it will spike. But
Yeah.
and through that was what essentially a 2.5 year
Yeah.
investigation.
And then a year. I mean, I spent a year before I even
Yeah.
reach out to you
You're right.
looking at
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah.
And it's been almost a year since
Mhm.
season 2 wrapped, and just kind of it just gets to a point with a 20-year-old cold case that
Right.
you can only go so far without
A badge.
a badge or
That
or a
would be
body.
great.
I mean,
Yeah,
not to
right.
sound morbid, but
Right. Right. So any kind of physical evidence would be great. It's unlikely that any will come up. And also, I'm just a reporter, so I can only ask people questions, and I can only bring the information that I get to authorities and what they do with that information. So it's frustrating when a show like that wraps. I never wanted to wrap it. I wanted to keep publishing forever about it, but you can't do that either. And over covering a story becomes gratuitous and unkind at a point.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Because these are real people,
Right.
You know, and many of them still here. But yeah, it just gets to a point where you can only go so far. And, you know, and we run into that reporting all the time. You know, I had somebody reach out to me last week about an issue, and it's like, okay, I believe you, and you know, I'll ask questions, but I can't force anybody. You know, I don't have subpoena power. I can't force somebody to talk to me, and especially, you know, when it comes to things like, you know, criminal investigations and, you know, well, you know, somebody got fired from such and such. Well, I heard they did. Well, okay, but companies are not going to just come out and talk to you about that.
Right.
And so there are challenges, but again, I think the more we kind of entrench ourselves and get to know people, the easier it becomes to get those questions
And that's what that rapport
answered.
is too. Just stopping in to say hi, stopping into your offices of the people that you're reporting on, and just, you know, making contact. Even with that, I'm not here for a story. It's not transactional today. I'm just stopping in to see what's up. That rapport building is how I got around. There were a lot of times that people could have told me, goodbye, I'm not answering this question with Damien, and they didn't, because I had developed a rapport over time.
And so what do you think the biggest takeaway from the podcast, or, you know, the one thing you learned from doing the podcast that's going to help you as a government reporter?
It's okay to bother people. You're allowed to bother people. I think women, especially in the news industry, it's hard because we're taught as girls to be polite and not be a bother. Learning how to politely press an issue. And then also, I learned a lot about right to know requests. I learned a lot about my right to what information I have a right to, and how to access that information, and how to push it when I need to. So just learning how to be pushy, I think, is the biggest takeaway that I got.
That, you know, and that's one of the things that you see, you know, so often. There's been a shift, I think, generally in the reporting industry of it's almost more like people want to be PR instead of reporters.
Yeah, it's a weird situation when you run into, like, with a print publication, you got advertising to think about. And so your publisher is always concerned about the advertising to editorial ratio, and that affects coverage. So being able to not have to be concerned with that so much, and to focus on what is news, what is relevant, and what should be in the story is nice.
You know, it's interesting. 3.5 years in, what we found with a lot of the folks that have done advertising with us is that as long as we're fair and just reporting, you know, accurately and truthfully, and not necessarily taking sides on issues, even if it's, you know, potentially negative, they're still willing to stay on as advertisers because, okay, yeah, that sucks, and maybe it doesn't make us look great, but it was reported accurately, objectively, fairly, and with the truth.
Right.
You know, and I think a lot of places, like you said, have gotten kind of scared away, especially as in print, as you know, subscribers decline, and, you know, the world shifts to a more digital landscape. It became more of a, can we really print that? Because, well, if they get pissed off and stop advertising, but that, unfortunately, you know, that permeates out, and
it becomes an ethical issue, a
Yes.
serious one.
But then you also see the way young reporters are being trained.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's, oh, well, just here, ask them for a press release and that'll be good enough. And it's like, okay, even when they give you stuff like that, you've got to look at it with a critical eye
Mhm.
and say, does this make sense?
You should have questions.
Yeah. And what questions does this bring up about, why are you doing this, or
Mhm.
how was this decision arrived at? And,
Yeah. And I think, the way that news is presented, so it's hard when you are the type of journalist who wants to ask hard questions or wants to press issues, because you get this accusation that you're just trying to drum up news. You're just trying to make
Yeah.
up stuff to come up with, to create controversy. And that's not
Mhm.
the case. But I think it's a deterrent to a lot of newsrooms. It's a deterrent to a lot of editors. And I think I've worked at 3 different newspapers, and I have seen younger reporters deterred from getting too curious. And I've seen those younger reporters leave the industry altogether because of that.
Yeah.
If you're a curious person, that's just not going to work,
Mhm.
and it shouldn't.
No. Well, and again, and I mean, we even see that, right? Like on the sports side of things, is that there's become this belief that you can't be critical of anyone at any
Right.
time for anything, and everything in the way that you cover them has to be done positively, and you're supporting, and it's like,
Or else it's not objective, right?
yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, well, you just, you're harping on kids or whatever, but it's like, on the flip side of that, and I've seen this as, somebody who's worked in childcare
Mhm.
when we were in Colorado, that we're now creating kids who are unable to take and handle criticism.
Accountability.
Yeah. and-
Accountability does not have to hurt.
right.
If you can create an environment that allows for constructive
Mhm.
feedback, and if you're able then to take that feedback without getting all up in your ego and defensive,
Yeah.
that's how positive change happens, and that's how we learn and grow and improve
Mhm.
on things. So yeah, the lack of accountability is a really hard thing, and it is becoming a generational issue, I feel like.
Yeah. So as we're, basically going to get started here Monday night with Warren City Council, what are you most looking forward to as you dive into this beat?
I think I'm equal parts nervous and excited. And I always was too, always when I had to take on hard news, especially local government. But I am excited to kind of overcome that a little bit. And also, I've been back in Warren now for 2 years. I lived in Oil City for a little bit. It's going to be nice to get back deep into how things are going, how things are being run. I have, and that's the other thing that I think is important. People talk about objectivity, and a reporter is always going to have opinions. I have strong opinions on how things should be, but I'm excited to get in and talk about how things actually are. And then maybe there would be some opportunities down the road for some editorials.
Right.
Where other opinions can be shared too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, we're, but, because it's reached a point now where, we've gotten a good enough feel for where the community is and kind of where things stand to really add an editorial voice to some of the things that are happening within the community, and have it be, taken seriously, and not just viewed as just another,
Right.
just more noise, right? To
Right.
add to the situation. Yes.
Content.
But again, all of these things build on each other, right? Like we can't have that voice if we're not
Having
digging
coverage,
in and covering things the way that they should be covered.
And then with a strong, objective news plus an editorial voice, I think you're going to find, and I'm looking forward to and hoping for a lot of engagement from readers. So I want to know what questions people have, so that when I go to meetings as a representative of the public, I know what the questions of the public are. So I'm looking forward to a lot of engagement. Questions always, I'm sure that I'll have an email address up, for people to get a hold of me, and I encourage you to do that, because I want to know what you want to know.
Yeah. And always we encourage, email us news@yourdailylocal.com, provide feedback, on social media, Facebook messages, Twitter or X, whatever, whatever Elon's calling it today. engage with us. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. We're not always going to have an immediate answer,
or one that you like. You
or,
might
or
not
one
like
that
the answer.
yeah, or you might not like the answer. But we're always encouraging people to provide feedback. If we're covering something and you feel like we're missing,
Yeah.
pieces of information or what have you, by all means, let us know.
Right.
We're extremely open to valid criticism. Maybe, and I'll put this out there. We got a couple of emails last summer after our coverage of Pride, and if your criticism is, why isn't there heterosexual Pride Month? Okay. That's not going to warrant a response. But if there's constructive criticism of, well, why did you cover, this event or not this one, or, why did you talk to this person and not this person? By all means, we're open to that. And I think, people who have reached out to us will admit that we're responsive as we can be.
Yeah.
It might take some time.
And I mean, I came in off the street over here at the Times Observer. I had no idea why things were news and why they weren't news. I learned a lot about that. And so there's always, if you're questioning why something is or is not news, that's always valid. And, we can't catch everything. So if there is an issue or a question that should be asked that we're missing, please, I want to know about it so that I can, follow up with that.
Well, one of the things I think that people ask generally that I heard frequently is, why was this accident covered and not this one? And so often it's just timing, right? Like you said, I mean, if there's an accident, say, right next to the courthouse, right, there's more people there,
it's impacting traffic on a major road,
it's impacting the major road, et cetera. And generally you're going to hear, right, and this was one of those things when we were working over at the Times Observer office, right? Like, oh, there's a whole crap load of sirens going on. I should walk up there and see what's happening, right? Yeah. Whereas if there's an accident, say at the top of Priest Hollow, right? There's generally less people that are going to know about it because it's away, right? It's in a more isolated area and things like that. And it's, we're not all knowing, right? Like, we don't just know things happen.
I'm not omniscient.
Yes.
Would be nice.
Obviously, I mean, we try to track, scanners and things like that if there's a major incident.
And also rapport, people, when you have that rapport with your local officials, they'll reach out to you and be like, hey, there's something you should cover up here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was, I think a perfect example of that is, the drug task force, had an operation on Monday. And when we first got started, those were kind of things that we were hearing about after the fact.
Secrets.
Yes.
Secrets.
Right. But now that we've been around and established those relationships, we knew
the source.
we knew to be there. And and that, again, that's just part of, we're growing as an organization. Directionally, we are making it a point, and I can't emphasize this enough. We are making it a point to be where we can be whenever we can be there, and to ask hard questions of people when they need to be asked. Not that there's nothing wrong with doing, features and what they call fluff pieces and things like that. It's, we don't want it to become this, Warren County is just this crime riddled, full of fraudulent, bad actors and all that kind of stuff.
And I love to tell a good story.
Yes.
I love to tell stories about public officials doing everything right, know? So it's not like I'm looking for like crap to dig up either, So we love to tell the good stories too. We just have to tell all the stories, and they're not all good.
And again, if you know a story that we should be telling, by all means, reach out, let us know. We have myriad ways to get in touch with us. I know my business card's probably in about 4,000 different
My
people's
phone
pockets.
number
Right?
has
Yeah.
been public and published to the entire world.
Yeah.
For 2 years.
So, yes, by all means, reach out. And again, you're not always going to get the answer that you want, but we'll do our best. And again, not to shill, but if you are a business owner, spend your advertising dollars with us. Yeah, Facebook is great for connecting people, but are you really reaching the audience you want to reach? Where with us, we're getting right to the heart of 35,000 plus people, most of them in Warren County, every month, just coming to the website. That doesn't include everybody that we're reaching, with Coffee and a Conversation, with One Cup of News, with all the local sports that we're broadcasting, and the random live events that we go to too.
Right.
And again, and if you're a reader, we have that support us button at the top of the page. Every little bit helps. It stays here, right? Stacy's not on board without local businesses, local readers supporting what we do. And the more that you come out and support us financially, the more that we can do. And that money stays right here in this community. It's not going to some corporate office hundreds of miles away or whatever. It's staying right here, and it's bringing you coverage that matters to you.
It's paying me to go ask hard questions.
Right. So yeah, I mean, we're excited about this new kind of direction. It's not really new, but it's
Developing.
Yes, that's a good word. We're evolving. We are evolving. I think that's the best way to put it. We're evolving, and hopefully in a way that matters to you. Our goal, as it has always been, to bring you the news you need when you need it, and this is just another step in doing that in the best possible way that we can. So, well, I'm excited.
Me too. I'm excited too.
And so again, looking forward to basically Monday is going to be meeting one.
Yeah.
So city council, be prepared. I guess
I'll be gentle.
Yeah. But there's going to be much more to come in the weeks and months as we go on here. And again, we're really looking forward to it. And Stacey, I know you're excited about this.
Yeah, I am. I'm excited to kind of evolve myself as a reporter and gain some more knowledge and experience.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up this week. I want to thank everybody for tuning in as White King Coffee presents Coffee and a Conversation. Thanks, Stacey, for stopping by and having a chat with us, even though it didn't sound great all the time. But looking forward to the next steps in our evolution as a news organization, serving you here in Warren and Forest County and throughout the region as well. So thanks so much for tuning in. Hope everybody has a great rest of your Saturday and a great weekend. Remember, if you change one life, you change the world. Cheers.
Cheers.
Know what would make that better? A cup of White King coffee.
Wow, that really is great coffee.
White King coffee, because every cup makes a difference.
It's not just about music lessons. It's about hard work, perseverance, dedication, self-expression, making memories. Let's make memories together.